I just find, like, as a person, a whole entire person, like, you have all these parts. Like, you have your physical body, you have like your spirit inside of you, whatever that means to you, and you've got like your mind. And when all those parts are working, you can see that other people and the world in general try to make you do stuff in a certain way, and they benefit from you, and they try to control you, and it's really disgusting to me. Like, disgusting is the best word. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's physically disgusting to me, and because people matter so much, Like, people have value. There's nothing in this world more valuable than a human.
All right. Well, welcome to In the Forge podcast. Thank you, Renee, for coming on. This is Renee Steward. She is a creator of many, many things: businesses, art, good energy, fun vibes. You want to name a couple things that you like to work on?
Yeah, well, I paint. I'm a painter, and I recently have gotten into like 3D, more sculptural art. Mm-hmm. I also have my own graphic design and marketing business, and then I also am working with another group. I've got two business partners, and we're working on a project called Local Links here in St. Paul. And it basically helps underfunded nonprofits that are doing really great things for the youth in our community get more funding.
That's awesome.
Which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then I also have a fitness business that's still up and coming. I'm still working on that, which it's an ongoing project. But
it's always ongoing projects. You're in the forge. You're making stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are some of the things right now.
What's your favorite medium to work in?
Medium. I really love photography, actually.
Yeah.
I love photography, and I really have gotten into oil paints. But more so, I think I'm more interested in the 3D aspect of art now, because I think it connects with people differently. So that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, I mean, like, this 503 service unavailable. It's how tall is it? 8 feet? 9 feet?
It's 8 feet.
It's 8 feet. It's a whole, like, I've already used the word, but it's an energy, just like
in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you could get maybe like if you had like a big painting or picture that was that size, it would still, like, the scale of it would probably give some sort of reaction that was similar, but not in the way that, like, a form that's coming out toward you, especially with like it being faces, eyeless faces looking at you.
Yeah. I just think with 3D art, because even in my paintings, like, I don't use paintbrushes, I use my hands, and there's something about like physically making something, like you're putting part of yourself into it in a way. And I think that comes across. It's like, it's all the feelings and the, like, blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak, and all the energy that went into making it. It's all of it, but also it's like, it's tangible. Like, it's a real thing in the world that's like multidimensional, and so engaging with it is a little bit different than seeing something that's flat on like a canvas. You know what I mean? I
do, yeah, definitely. When I paint, I use oils as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I lay it on thick. I love the texture and the tone, like, of the colors. Like, that's really what painting is to me.
Yeah.
And having it come off the page, I like to have it look like it's dripping off the canvas sometimes.
Yep.
Like that like, it just adds like a whole nother dimension to a normally, like, flat medium, and it's great.
Yeah, I do that a lot too with painting. When I first started painting, so I taught myself how to paint, but I would just do like acrylic pours and then like draw over them. And
fun.
I did that, and then I entered like a Blick, like the Blick art store, a Blick art contest, and I won like $75 from one of those. And I was like, that was just like baby artist Renee, like just trying stuff out because I didn't know what to do. And I was like,
you're still getting verified by Blick, which is awesome.
I know. I was like, whoa, maybe I can do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love texture too. It's just like, it makes things more fun.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. So what was like the first thing that made you want to start painting with your hands? Because that was one of the first things I learned about you, and I thought it was awesome this whole time.
Well, when I first started painting, so I took like a drawing class, and it's a drawing class, so they teach you like how to do stuff like everybody else. And then I was trying to learn how to paint watercolors is where I started painting. And it just wasn't like, it wasn't working. I think some people, they look at stuff and they see the way it is. And sometimes like when you look at stuff and I don't know how to describe it. It's like when I engage with the world, it's more like feelings for me. Like it's more like feelings in my body. And so looking at something and trying to paint it with a brush just wasn't working. Like it wasn't expressing what I needed to express. I actually had a friend that suggested, he was like, maybe you should try just using your hands because then you're more free. Like you can move how you need to move and put the paint where you need to put it and maybe let go and stop focusing on the tool so much and just do it. And then I did, and I never went back. I was like, I'm never going to use a brush again. It's like, it didn't make any sense for me, so. Yeah,
you get some like pretty like intricate parts with like the eyes and stuff like that. How do you use like your fingernail? How do you get like, or is it just like are you not as careful as I'm thinking you're being, or with like your getting little things?
If I'm honest, I don't know.
Okay. It could just be in the moment too, or like whatever the vibe calls for. But I mean, like with when you're looking at it and just like interacting with it, I relate with that as well. Like with my paintings, they're usually pretty abstract, and I'll be painting it, and halfway through the painting, because it's oil and I put it on so thick, it'll take weeks or months to fully dry.
Yeah.
And I'll just be looking at it, and I'm like, I don't love where this is going, and so flip it upside down, turn it to the side. I'm like, yeah, that gives a lot more motion, and like it makes me want to go back to it and have new ideas on how to build on top of it. Even though, it doesn't have like a specific object or subject, it still has like thought behind it and planning. And that's great that you can like interact with the art on like a physical level like that, and that's great, besides just visualizing it. Not saying that visualizing is a bad thing or anything like that, but just that connection is really cool.
I actually don't visualize anything that I've made before I make it. I don't actually know where it's going to go or what I want to do. Usually when I sit down, it's like it's like a urge to just like make something. Or sometimes I find like if I'm too much like in my brain, like if there's too many thoughts or like feelings or whatever's happening in there, art kind of gives me a space to like remove myself from what's happening and kind of look at it and then just like put it somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's how I think about it. So I don't ever know what's happening. I'm just like in the moment making something. Yeah.
I know this project's a little different, but do you normally name like your paintings or your other works of art?
Usually it's a word. So like when I'm painting, I'm usually processing like things like interactions with people or things that I've read or things that I've done or things that are just like in there for some reason. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever thought process is happening and replaying and ruminating in my mind. Usually it's something that I need to figure out for myself and understand and pull something from. And so when I'm making art, usually at the end of it, like I'll post it on Instagram. That's usually where I put my art, because otherwise it feels kind of pointless having made it if I don't do anything with it. And so I'll put it on there, and I'm like, and then usually there's like a word that stands out, and that's usually what I name them.
Awesome. So do you think that what's an example of a word like that you have used? Is it like a noun or a verb, or does like the face that you painted, do you think that conveys the like emotion or sentiment that's behind that word sometime? Or is it just something that maybe you see and feel because you were there when it was being made and that's what you were thinking of when you were making it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. I think it's more, if I'm honest, I don't know what other people see when they look at my art. Like I have no idea how they interpret it. But for me, it's like, it's kind of like I said, it's like there's something that took place that is in my mind for some reason, and it's there because I just need to process it. And usually the word, like when I look at the painting, the feeling and the understanding that I get, usually that word holds that meaning for me. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. And that's important that you're making it for yourself and that like you see that meaning behind it. And there's a lot of times where you can just like come up with a name or an idea or something that is cool that you don't put everything into, and being able to put your emotions into it is such a big part of art. And like, I mean,
Yeah.
there's almost, I don't want to be too hyperbolic when I say this, but like, there's almost no point in doing it if there's like nothing behind it. I mean,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fantastic. I kind of want to get talking about this one.
Sure.
Over this big boy over here. So,
Yeah.
What was the original idea for this behind it? I've got a few questions. The original behind it and the name for this, and please.
The original idea is that this. Usually when I paint, when I make art, like I said, I don't really have like an idea of what I want to do when I sit down and make it. So this one is different because I had an idea that I wanted to make 500 masks for some reason. This, I don't know. I wish I knew where ideas came from. I wish I knew, but I don't.
Yeah.
But I had this idea. I wanted to make 500 masks, and the idea evolved a lot because when you do something that you've never done before, as you're going through the process of making it, it changes, and what you want to do changes based on, what your skill level and the time available and what you know how to do and what you don't know how to do and what people you have around you that know how to do stuff and like all of that,
Mm-hmm.
So I had this idea to make 500 masks, and that was it. Like I didn't have an idea about what I wanted it to look like in the end. I just had this idea I wanted to make 500 masks, and I thought of all of these cool ideas, which actually I still want to do. And now that I've done it one time, I think I might still do them. We'll see. But I was like, oh, what would be cool is if you make these masks, and if they were like hanging from the ceiling kind of in a layered way and backlit. I'm like, that would be really cool. And I had this idea of making them all like on the outside, just a single solid color. And then you could walk around it, and then they would all be hand drawn on the inside.
Oh, wow.
I had that idea. There was no way in the world I was gonna be able to do that in the time frame that I had.
This took a while, right?
This took a year.
Well, a couple days.
Not knowing what I wanted in the beginning, and also not knowing how to do it.
Right.
So,
yeah, you had a couple different processes that you used to make some of the masks, right?
Yeah. So I have like a process. Well, it's kind of a process that I've recognized that I have. I didn't like make up the process. Just like I noticed myself doing things this way, but I do it in business as well. It's like whenever I want to do something, I'll learn as much as I can up front about it. Like I go all in up front. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They'll like dip their toe in the water and like go really slowly with stuff. I don't do that. I just jump in and I figure it out. And then when I start drowning, then I'm like, all right, I got to get out of the pool. But no, so I'll learn as much as I can up front. So for this one, I was like, okay, I want to make masks, and I don't know how to do that. And so I had made masks before using like paper clay that I got at Blake's probably, which you can get. And it's really cool because you can paint watercolors on paper clay. But
oh, sweet. Is it made out of paper or what?
Yeah,
oh, hey.
But it's clay, and then it dries in 2 hours. There's no like kiln or firing involved, and it hardens, and you can just like paint on it, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
But I was like, well, I need to mass produce these things. So what kind of process can I use? And so I just asked a bunch of artists that I knew at Creator Space. And so there was one artist named Jess, and she's an art teacher, so she knows all kinds of stuff. And she's like, oh, well, you can make them out of clay, and you can hand mold each one. So that was an idea. We started doing that, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this. Like, I just didn't like it. I didn't like the process of hand molding a face. I didn't like the way they looked. I just didn't like it. And also, I didn't think it was very sustainable or cost effective for making 500 masks because clay is not cheap. So there was another artist who did paper mache, and he taught me his process for making paper mache, but he makes like these gigantic like 3D animals out of paper mache. And so he has like this very in-depth process on how to do it, which includes multiple layers of the paper mache, like 2 layers, and then also a layer of paper towels with the paper mache glue that hardens it and creates like a flat surface so you can paint or draw on top of it, which I did make one, but that was also taking too long. It took like a week to make a single mask.
Oh boy.
Well, because you have to wait for each layer to dry, and then do it. And I was like, well, I have to make 500 masks. And so then I just started playing around with the materials that I knew. So I liked the paper mache glue, and then I heard about plaster. And so I forgot this part. So in the very beginning, there was this one girl, she was like, oh, you can make a plaster mold out of your face. And I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, it takes like 30 minutes. It's really easy. So we did it. And I laid like flat on a table and she put plaster all over my face. And then we took it off and it ripped all my eyelashes out. And I was like, well,
oh no.
Well, I can't do that 500 times.
Well, you don't have any more eyelashes to rip out, so I mean.
Well, it was not a good feeling. It wasn't a good feeling. So I liked plaster because it was quick. Like you can use plaster and it dries in 30 minutes. Like plaster, and then I liked the paper mache glue because it was also like it wasn't that fast, but it was also fast. And so I wanted to play around with the different materials to see what kind of textures and consistency I could get. So I tried plaster and paper mache glue with just a single layer of paper, with just paper towels, and then I started using gauze bandages. I don't know where that idea came from, but in the end, that's what I did. When I figured out gauze bandages and plaster worked, I made like 300 of the masks in a single weekend. So I was awesome, it was like 200 masks of trial and error, and then 300 once I figured it out.
That's kind of like an allegory for your whole jump in and figure it out along the way, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's how I do business as well. Like I'll learn a lot up front. Like I'll talk to everybody I know. I'll watch every single YouTube video. I'll listen to every podcast. I'll read all the books that I know about, and then I'll just go and do it. And then once I figure out the process, it's like really slow and tedious and really time consuming in the beginning, and it's really tiring. But then once you figure it out, like game over.
Yeah. That's been something I've always like appreciated about knowing you, is you always bring a good enthusiasm, like a good energy, and like you just are always like positive every time I've been around, and like that's just, it's awesome. It's not many people that like can like bring positivity to everyday life. A lot of people are more calm and laid back during.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I tend to surround myself with those kinds of people, with very like calm and grounded types of people, because I think sometimes when you have like a lot of ideas and a lot of big ideas all the time, like I think about it like as a spectrum. Like you can be really deep in the details, or you can be really like outside of the world, like big picture. But I find for me, like if I'm on either side of the spectrum too much, then it's like when I'm deep in the details, like I get really weighed down and really angry and really tired and really disconnected from like the outside world. But when I'm too head in the clouds, like out in outer space, like what are you talking about, Renee? Then it's like I got to come back down to earth a little bit, because then I feel like a balloon floating in the air,
I resonate with that. I mean, my artist name that I go by for like music and stuff like that is Planet Boy, because of all my different hobbies and different like things that I focus on. I feel like I'm on a different planet every time I'm working on something else, and when I try to like communicate with some people about what I'm thinking about on something, it might just be a complete like stop, because they don't have no idea how I came to the conclusions I did or something like that. And so yeah, getting grounded while being able to look up at the sky at least, that's important.
So the people I find myself surrounded by are very grounded people a lot. Like they're very like practical and very just like more grounded and looking at things as they are, which is helpful for me, because actually it helps me have better ideas, because for a creative person, creating is really, to me, just problem solving. Like you're seeing something that other people aren't seeing, and you can see a way to fix it that other people aren't seeing a lot of times, or I don't know. Like that's just how I see it. So like when you're interacting with people who aren't the same as you, it kind of keeps your head on straight and provides like structure, so you don't get too lost in your own head. But also it helps you see more of things that you're not seeing all the time.
Yeah. So we got a little off topic with the 503. So do you want to go into a little bit behind the name?
So in the end, after I made all these masks, so I made 503 just because that's the the amount of materials that I had. I was like, well, I got to use it. I'm not going to make this again, so I got to use it up. So I had 503 masks, and I didn't know what to call it. And then so I just did a Google search of 503 just to see what was out there. And then it was like an error code, like service unavailable 503.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. Like when you try to load a page and it's down for maintenance or something.
And it's like an error code, like what you're looking for isn't there. And I was like, oh, well, that's perfect.
What you're looking for isn't there.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's perfect because I made all these masks and the letters on them spell out free. And so for me, it was just like a lot of weight that I had been carrying for things that, they weren't me. Like it was just a lot of emotional weight, a lot of like mental weight, just a lot of weight. And so I think when you're in the process of changing, like when I don't even want to call it changing. It's like you're in the process of figuring yourself out and trying to understand what it is you're supposed to do, and what it is you want to do, and what it is like that gives your life meaning and purpose. You're looking a lot, like you're searching in a way outside of yourself and inside of yourself. And so making the mask was a process for me of kind of sorting through all of that garbage, so to speak, and then putting it somewhere, and then it's like, oh, what I was looking for wasn't there. But also that gives you freedom because it's kind of like a new canvas, Like when you start a blank canvas, when you realize what you're looking for isn't there, then you can see what is there. And then you have an opportunity to make something better.
That's when you can put something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I saw this in the gallery and you had your artist talk. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I remember asking why you used the word free, and you said that it just kind of came to you and that it felt right. And I thought that was a perfect answer because that is one of the most free things you could do is just be like, yeah, let's do it. Full send, right? You thought of it and it just felt right and you went with it. And
yeah,
I think it came out really well, and it fits kind of what we've been talking about with who you are as a person and how you think. Yeah.
Freedom. I think if I had to give my life like a value, it would be freedom. Like a lot of the things that I do are for freedom, like for my own personal freedom, to help other people find freedom in expression, freedom in, what they do for money, freedom in how they live their life. I just find, like as a person, a whole entire person, like you have all these parts, like you have your physical body, you have like your spirit inside of you, whatever that means to you, and you've got like your mind. And when all those parts are working, you can see that other people and the world in general try to make you do stuff in a certain way. And they benefit from you and they try to control you. And it's really disgusting to me. Like disgusting is the best word. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's physically disgusting to me. And because people matter so much, Yeah. Like people have value. There's nothing in this world more valuable than a human, And so I don't even have words. Like it's just, it doesn't make sense to me. Like I physically don't know how to comprehend that. So
yeah, I couldn't see you taking advantage of anyone. Like it's not in your nature. That's like just so anti-Renee that the like helping people find their freedom that's a beautiful thing to say, and that's kind of what you hold like deepest to your core is your freedom and individuals' freedom, just of every human, and just like the value, holding that value of human life so highly is.
Well, I look around sometimes and I just think about how everything in the world, for the most part, aside from like things that are natural to the earth, is made up. Like everything is made up.
Is made up.
And then I look around and I'm like, why do we make it up this way? Why is it so terrible? I don't understand. I can't comprehend it.
Why does Jeff Bezos need how many trillions worth of arcade coins or United States currency? Like, what's the difference?
So it's like, if we're making it up, why would we make it up to be shitty to other people? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, why not give some tokens to the little kids too, so they can play some games?
Yeah. I always think about it because I study and I read a lot about fitness and about the body. And I'm like, every single cell in your body has to operate at its highest optimal level possible for you to operate at your highest optimal level possible. So if you look at people that way, like, we're all here doing things together. We are technically separate. Like, you aren't in my body and I'm not in your body, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like every single cell in your body is separate, but they're working together to make you work better, Right. So I think about it that way. So it's like, well, if you're trying to tear other people down, then you're kind of like an autoimmune disease. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of something that I've noticed in like a lot of like individual art forms, like that collaboration now is becoming a lot more accepted, and that it's not me over you. Like, we can all, if we all like rising tides, raise all the ships, or whatever that quote is.
I just heard that quote the other day. I was like,
it's a much better way to think about people and life and what success is, to measure that by not what you have versus what somebody else has, but what everybody can accomplish together. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. One thing I always go to your Instagram for is like motivation and positivity quotes, and
oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, you got like a fountain of positive quotes. Like, do you have a favorite quote or anything like that?
I can't say that I have a favorite one, because wherever I am, like developmentally and mentally, like, I'll always find something that's just useful, or my brain will put something together on its own based on just like my own experiences. Right now I'm very like a lot thinking about, that sentence didn't make sense, but I'm like listening to my words. I'm like, what am I trying to say? I'm thinking a lot about leadership and about process right now. So like in art, in business, in interpersonal relationships, like all of that, I'm thinking a lot about leadership and a lot about processes. So I think a quote that is just something that I came up with, but I think something right now that's very top of mind is, every great artist has a process, but it's like a ratio of structure. Like, how much structure is good for you and how much unstructure is good for you. Right. I think some people need lots of structure in order to operate at their highest creative capacity, but some people need just a little bit of structure and a lot of room to play to put things together. But I think I don't think that's a quote. That's just something I'm thinking about. But
no, yeah, did you say you came up with that idea, like of the structure, or you heard it from somewhere?
Oh no, I didn't hear that anywhere.
Oh wow,
ratio of structure. That's what I'm calling it. But I just
awesome.
I just like the way it sounds. So I'm like, and it makes sense for me because I'm always trying to figure out what my boundaries are. Like, how much will I let other people tell me what to do, and how much do I need to figure stuff out on my own? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So I think about that a lot, because when people overstep that, I know, because I get really mad. And when I don't have enough of it, I know, because I'm not getting anything done.
So you said you're thinking about leadership. How do you see what do you think the relationship between leadership and freedom is? Because having individual freedoms is a great idea, but there does need to be structure to like societies and communities, and people need to work together. There does need to be some hierarchies in some sense, a lot of equality, of course, and equity across the board, but like some people are better at things than other people, and they need to like be the ones who are kind of like overseeing how things are done sometimes, right? So what do you think what does leadership mean to you, and how does that relate to freedom?
Well, I think a good leader, or a good coach, or a good teacher, or a good, like, anybody with any kind of authority. They're all kind of the same thing to me. But I believe a good leader has a responsibility to give responsibility. I think freedom sometimes is lacking because people don't take responsibility for themselves. So when you allow other people to tell you what to do and to tell you how to do things and to tell you how to live your life based on some idea that's on TV or some idea that somebody cooked up to make money, I have no idea, then you're giving up your freedom and you're giving up your responsibility.
Yeah.
So a good leader sees potential in a human, and a good leader sees how somebody lights up when they do something and empowers them to do it. But that's a good leader or a good coach or a good anybody. But they don't insert themselves in that. It's not like a codependent, like you need me in order to do this. It's like, I'm going to push you to do this because it's the right thing to do and because it'll make you better and it will make me better and it will make the world better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's not like micromanaging and telling them how to do every single step of the process. It's more finding who's best for like specific tasks and letting them use their strengths.
Yep.
Yeah, so that totally ties to freedom. I see that. That's great.
But that's how I think about it.
Yeah.
I think most people would live better lives if they were doing things that fit who they are, that fit like what their natural skills and interests are, that fit what they're best at doing, then maximizing them.
Yeah, what do you think, how do you think that people, like some people have a hard time finding what they're good at or what something that interests them or anything really creative. Some people just don't think that they are creative sometimes. Do you have any ideas on how they could, develop their creativity more or try to find some sort of outlet or skill set that is, going to make them happier?
You just have to try a lot of stuff. Like you just have to try it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be okay with being uncomfortable and not knowing what you're doing. And I'm interested in everything, like literally everything. I would make a business tomorrow that I had no business doing probably because I know nothing about it, but I just have an interest in it and I see a way that it can be used to help somebody else. Do you know what I mean?
That's what marketing is.
Yeah, marketing is the coolest. It's like, when you know like somebody so well, like your grandma, like, when you know your grandma so well because you just spent so much time with her and you can get her the most perfect gift in the world just because you know her so well, and nobody else in the world would know to give her that gift, but you do because you know her that well. Mm-hmm. That's what marketing is.
Yeah.
It's like connecting the very right person with the very right thing that's just going to light them up. Mm-hmm. And that's cool.
Yeah, that's really like for most of my life, I was probably on the side of not really understanding what like advertising is, and I thought of it as this like big bad corporation thing just trying to like sell you stuff. But then when you find out what marketing is, and when it's done ethically and it's done intentionally, it's a powerful art. It's so great. It's one of the most collaborative and like wide-reaching forms of art that you could have, and that's why I love to do it, and that's why I went to school for it, and that's why like I try to brand and market myself in like everything that I do, is because that's really all anything is what is it? Say who you are, say what the product is, say who it's for, and just get it out there. And that's relationships, that's art, that's marketing, that's everything. Mm-hmm.
That's true. I worked for AT&T in sales for 10 years, so I was always like coming at things from a sales standpoint, but sales is it feels manipulative to me.
It's related to marketing in a sense, but yeah,
I know. It's like, when you're doing something for so long and then you just take 2 steps to the left and like everything opens up, you're like, oh, it's like the light bulb moment.
Yeah, a lot of the sales stuff that might feel kind of tricky, that might be because of like quotas and incentives for the salesperson to really get that sale, and like maybe they are trying to like sell them something, as long as they're not like a used car dealer who's selling them, cars can break down in 500 miles. I don't think you being at AT&T was, you're getting people's phones and helping them get it set up,
I know, but I think it is the sales quotas and like that money's tied to it. And then like the way they teach you how to sell things is like to ask them questions and engage with people and have a conversation and figure out how our products can solve their problems.
Yeah.
Which is all good things. But then when it's like tied to quotas and money, then it doesn't feel good.
Right.
It's like,
it feels less genuine then.
Yeah. It's like, well, I'm not just asking you these questions because I want you to buy stuff. Like I do love having conversations with you.
Yeah, we're not having coffee, we're not having a podcast. I'm trying to get your money.
Right. And then it like I don't know how to describe it. It like it taints it in some way and then it doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Marketing's a little different. It's more creative. Like it's like you're showcasing the best of the person you're marketing for so that they can, it's kind of like online dating. Like that's how I think about it. Like, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Like you're matchmaking.
Yeah. And the learn more, shop now button that's swiping right.
Yeah. It's like online dating.
Yeah.
Like you're just connecting people and that's just a cool thing.
Is there anything else you want to plug before we head out?
Well, there's Stu Does Art, and then Stu from Lulu is my marketing and design Instagram, and I put my photography there too sometimes. I'm doing a lot of product photography lately, so it'll go there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are my two Instagrams, and then my art, I haven't photographed it yet, but it'll be online soon.
Yeah, there's going to be some B-roll of the paintings and of 503 here. How can people contact you if they decide that, they want to buy it?
You can just send me a DM.
DM?
Just shoot me a message on Instagram. That's the easiest way.
Sweet.
I respond. I'm on there. That's mostly where I live, Instagram. I don't play around on any other social media. So, yep, you can find me there.